A suitcase thudded onto my porch. It sounded heavy, like someone had slammed it into the sand. I looked out the window, and my heart sank a little. I knew who it was. My mom's voice came floating through the open doorway. It sounded soft and sweet, like iced tea on a hot day. But there was a sharp edge to it, like a small knife hiding in her words. "We're finally here," she said, already walking into my beach house. She acted like the house was hers, even though it wasn't. Then I heard my sister Valindra laugh. Her laugh was quiet and polished, just like always. Then came the sound of a key turning in the lock, a key I had never given her. They stepped into the living room and stopped. All the family photos were gone. The cozy throw blankets that used to sit on the couch were folded neatly, almost perfectly, like in a fancy hotel. On the coffee table, a single white card sat in the middle, like a warning sign. It looked serious and important. "Please read before staying," it said. My mom put her hand to her mouth, shocked. My sister's phone slipped from her hand, almost like she couldn't believe what she saw. "No," my mom whispered. "No, this can't be happening." I could hear her words in my head and imagine Valindra's smile freezing in place, like someone had suddenly turned on a bright light in the room. But this didn't start at the beach. It all started earlier on a Sunday with a phone call. I was in my kitchen, rinsing dishes from lunch, when my phone buzzed. I picked it up without thinking. "Mom," I said. "Hi, honey." Her voice sounded soft and almost happy. "Your sister and I think we need space." "Space from what?" I asked. "From everything," she said quickly. "We just want a quiet week by the water. Your father loved that house. Being there makes me feel close to him. The beach house. My beach house. It's small, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a porch that creaks in the wind. I bought it with overtime pay and lots of hard work. I pay for every inch of it. It's my reset button." "Next week," she added, almost like she was asking to borrow a casserole dish. Before I could answer, Valindra's voice slid into the phone call. Smooth and sharp, just like always. "Great. So, you'll come first and get everything ready." "Ready. Groceries, clean sheets. Make sure the house is spotless," she said. Mom deserves a real break. I felt my jaw tighten. I said, "I can leave fresh sheets." Valindra cut me off quickly. "Amathea, don't make this complicated." Mom tried to sound gentle. "Sweetheart, you're younger. You have more energy. It's only fair if you help." "Only fair?" I asked carefully. "So, I'm not allowed to come as a family? I can only come if I'm working." There was a tiny pause. Then Valindra chose her words carefully, like she was picking silverware for a fancy dinner. "Do you understand, or do I need to explain it slower?" Something inside me went very still. I wanted to argue. I wanted to remind my mom that this was my house, my payments, my insurance, my name on everything. I wanted to shout, "You don't get to ban me from my own life." But I knew the trap. If I got emotional, I'd look dramatic. If I stayed calm, I'd look selfish. So I swallowed my anger and said, "Okay." Valindra exhaled like a queen giving mercy to someone below her. "Perfect. We'll be there Saturday. Mom wants the good decaf coffee pods. Turn the heat on." After I hung up, I stood there with the faucet running, listening to water spill into the empty sink. This wasn't new. It was just finally spoken out loud. My role in the family wasn't my daughter. It was the helper fixer, the one who paid for everything and cleaned up the mess. That night, I opened my laptop and looked at all my beach house bills and messages. Little reminders that when things went wrong, it was always on me. I didn't call Valindra back. I didn't text Mom a long paragraph. I drove down to the beach house early by myself. The house was quiet when I unlocked the door. I walked through each room slowly. For the first time in months, it didn't feel like a shared house. It felt like mine. Then I packed away anything they had used to control me. The framed photo of Dad by the pier, the quilt Mom called ours, the spare key that should not exist. I made the house neutral, clean, simple, almost like it was a house for sale. I changed the keypad code and updated the locks. Only one name could enter now. Mine. I put one plain envelope on the coffee table. One small card. "Please read before staying." The next day, Mom and Valindra arrived with their suitcases and voices rolling in like they owned the place. But the second they stepped in, they stopped. No photos. No cozy blankets. No family warmth to claim. Mom's hand went to her mouth. Valindra's smile faltered. "What is this?" she asked, no longer calm. Inside the envelope, the first line was bold. "Notice of unauthorized occupancy. Use agreement." Mom's breath hitched. "No," she whispered. "No, this can't be happening." Her words were still ringing in my ears when my phone lit up. "Amathea, she said the moment I answered, like I had dropped a vase. What did you do? I left something on the coffee table for you to read, I said, keeping my voice steady. If I sounded emotional, Valindra would call me dramatic. Valindra cut in, cold and clipped. This is absurd. Take it down. Take what down? I asked. The paperwork, the little show, she said. You're embarrassing, Mom. Mom rushed in, soft as always. Honey, why are you doing this? We just wanted a quiet week. I said, that's not quiet. That's work. That's not how I meant it, Mom murmured. But she didn't correct Valindra. She never did. Valindra sighed. You're acting like we asked for a kidney. It's a house. You're not even using it. I said, I pay for it and I am responsible for it. Mom tried the old line that used to make me cry. Your father would have wanted us together. I paused. Dad wanted you cared for, I said. He didn't want me treated like staff. Valindra laughed once, sharp. Oh, spare me. This wasn't one rude phone call. It was years of small invasions dressed up as family. Valindra inviting people without asking, Mom saying, just this once, until once became a pattern, HOA warnings after noisy weekends, letters in my name, my problem to fix. Mom's voice softened. Valindra told me you didn't mind. Of course I did mind, I said. I just stopped explaining. The next morning, I drove to an estate attorney in town. Mr. Dorian, late 60s, calm-eyed, the kind of man who had seen families fall apart over words, listened as I explained everything. My beach house, my mom's space, my sister's demand that I could only come if I served them. When I finished, he folded his hands. That's not a vacation, he said. That's unpaid work tied to emotional pressure. He went over simple, real-world things. If someone slipped on my steps, I was liable. If the HOA sent a notice, it came to me. If something got out of hand, the deed didn't protect me. Is the home in your name alone? He asked. Yes. And do they have a key? Not anymore. Good, he said. Now we put expectations in writing. We drafted a clean use agreement. Dates, how long they could stay, HOA rules, responsibility for damages, and one important sentence that felt like breathing after holding my breath for years. Owner approval required in writing. He also prepared a notice I could use if someone came in without permission. I hated needing it. I wasn't trying to punish my mom. I was trying to stop being punished for saying no. As I stood to leave, Mr. Dorian looked over his glasses. Boundaries don't destroy families, he said quietly. Entitlement does. In the parking lot, Valindra called, then texted in all caps. Call me now. This is insane. I didn't call. Instead, I called a local property stager my neighbor had recommended. If your family keeps treating your home like a free resort, I'll make it look less like ours and more like what it is, mine, I told them. The stager asked, Are you preparing to sell? I stared at the ocean in the distance and thought about Valindra's calm cruelty, my mom's silence, and my own years of swallowing it. I'm preparing, I said, choosing my words carefully, making sure this never happened again. That's when I realized the surprise at the beach house wasn't petty. It was a line in the sand. Valindra's words stayed in my head all day. Do I need to explain it slower? Like replaying an insult long after the person who said it had moved on. Meanwhile, my mom and sister were still in my beach house, standing in the living room that no longer felt like family. They had opened the envelope. They had read the first line. And now Valindra was doing what she always did when she didn't get her way, rearranging the story. She made herself look innocent and cruel to me. She's punishing you, Valindra told Mom loud enough for the whole house to hear, like the walls were listening. Because she can't stand that you needed a break. Mom looked smaller than she had on the phone. Her shoulders rounded, her purse clutched like a shield. I don't understand why she's making us sign something, she whispered. Valindra waved the pages. Because she's being dramatic. She thinks she's teaching us a lesson. Then she smiled, polished, angry, but still polite. It's not going to work. She marched into the hallway like she owned it, as if my house had been waiting for her approval. She opened the linen closet, expecting towels stacked like in a resort. Empty. She opened the pantry. Bare, except for a single labeled basket, owner items. Do not use it. Her lips pressed into a thin line. In the kitchen, she yanked open drawers, looking for the good utensils I saved for guests who actually acted like guests. She found nothing but the basics, laid out like an Airbnb. Not hostile. Just not hers. Mom moved slowly toward the shelf, her hand brushing along the smooth surface out of habit. It was something she always did when she walked into a room, something automatic. But this time she stopped suddenly. She froze. There was nothing on the shelf. No picture of Dad standing by the pier, smiling into the sun. No family Christmas photo with everyone in ugly matching sweaters. Not even a small, silly drawing from when we were kids. Nothing. Just a clean, empty shelf and a vase with some fake beach grass. The kind you buy at a store when you want a house to look plain and perfect, but not like anyone really lives there. Mom's voice trembled a little. She reached for a photo she had brought with her, a picture of Dad when he was younger, standing on the pier with his arms open wide. Her fingers shook as she held it. "Oh," she whispered softly, almost to herself. But Valindra didn't even blink. She stood there, arms crossed, face sharp. "She's trying to make you feel guilty," Valindra said flatly, her eyes cold. I can hear it in her voice. "Don't let her do that." Mom flinched slightly. Valindra didn't wait. She took control the way she always did, like the room was a chessboard and she knew all the moves. "Fine," Valindra said suddenly, sharp as a whip. Her voice went from angry to commanding in the same breath. "Let's get settled. Riven can bring the bags in. You start unpacking the kitchen stuff. We'll make it feel like home." Mom blinked, unsure what to say. "But the note." Valindra shoved the papers back into the envelope like it was garbage someone had left on the floor. "We're not signing anything," she said firmly. "We can't be kicked out. We're family and family belongs here." Her words hit the room with force, like a stamp marking everyone's rights. "Family, therefore we belong." Then, just like that, there was a knock on the door. Mom jumped, startled. Valindra froze for a fraction of a second, her face caught between surprise and irritation. Then she walked over to the door like it belonged to her. She swung it open, and for the first time her expression tightened. Standing there was an older woman. Her hair was cut neatly in a bob, her cardigan soft and clean, the kind of neighbor who knew every single rule about the neighborhood. I had met her once before, at a community meeting. Everyone called her Mrs. Morwin, the unofficial mayor of our street. "Oh," Valindra said too brightly. "Hi." Her voice wobbled just slightly, but she tried to hide it. Mrs. Morwin didn't smile. She looked past Valindra into the living room. The room was stripped clean, plain and neutral, with nothing personal anywhere. She noticed the empty walls, the bare shelves, the quiet vase of fake grass. "I saw new cars in the driveway," she said calmly. "And I haven't seen Amathea." "She let us in," Valindra said quickly, almost too quickly. "We're her family." Mrs. Morwin's eyes flicked to the coffee table, where a small white card lay quietly, like a line you weren't supposed to cross. "Did she?" she asked slowly, like that word carried weight. Valindra forced a bright smile. Mrs. Morwin didn't argue. She only nodded once, small but deliberate. Then, in her polite and precise voice, she said, "This community has very strict rules about staying short-term. The board has been very attentive lately." She glanced down at the corner of the white card, and her mouth tightened just a little. "I would hate for anyone to get another notice," she added, her voice calm but firm. The word another hit Mom hard. Her face changed immediately. "Another notice." Mom looked at Valindra. Valindra's jaw tightened like a door being slammed shut in slow motion. Mrs. Morwin gave Mom a small, almost sympathetic smile, but it wasn't meant for Valindra. "I'm sure it's nothing you did," she said. "But the HOA office asked me to call if there were unapproved guests again." "Again?" Mom's fingers gripped her purse strap tightly. "Valindra." Valindra's calm finally cracked. "Oh my God," she hissed under her breath, shutting the door as if the knocking had hurt her. "This is what she's doing. She's turning people against us." Mom looked down at the envelope on the coffee table. Suddenly, it felt much heavier than it had a second ago. Slowly, she pulled the papers back out. Something slipped from the middle. A second folder, thicker and heavier, fell onto the table. The front had a printed label. CHO violation history. Beach house incident notes. Linda Valindra. Mom's lips parted. "Why are our names on this?" she whispered. Valindra lunged for it, but Mom held it close, her eyes scanning the first page. Mom's face went pale, the kind of pale that sinks in from the inside. Outside, the wind rattled the porch chimes. Inside, Valindra's phone buzzed constantly, one call after another, like the house itself was telling her she had been caught. For the first time, Valindra looked scared. Her confidence faltered. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table like a trapped bug, and she snatched it up. Her face tightened as she saw the caller ID. HOA office. Mom didn't look away from the folder. Her finger moved down the page, slowly reading each line. Noise complaint. Trash left out. Unauthorized guests. Mom looked up, her eyes sharp now. "Valindra, what is this?" Valindra forced a thin, automatic smile. "Busybody neighbors." Amethy's overreacting, she said, trying to sound casual. Mom's voice sharpened. Then why is my name on it? Valindra's eyes flicked away, guilty. Because she's trying to scare you, she said, but her voice wavered. The phones buzzed again. Then Mom's. Then Riven's. Mom picked up her phone, because Mom always answers. Hello, she said. A crisp, serious voice came from the other side. Mrs. Harper, this is the HOA office. We received a notification about unauthorized occupancy at the house on Seagrass Lane. We need to confirm who is currently inside. Mom's cheeks flushed. I'm Amethy's mother. Thank you. We also need written permission to occupy the property this week, per policy. Valindra lunged for the phone. Give me that. Mom pulled it back, startled. Valindra. Valindra leaned in, voice sweet but sharp like poison. Hi, we're family. We don't need written permission. The HOA representative didn't move. Ma'am, the policy applies to everyone. If the owner does not confirm permission today, we will document this as unauthorized occupancy. Mom's hands shook. What happens then? She asked, her voice quiet but tense. Fines, the rep said calmly. And referral to security if necessary. Valindra's confidence drained in real time. Mom ended the call with a shaky, polite, thank you, and hung up. Then she turned to Valindra, her eyes steady and strong. You told me there were no problems. You told me Amethea didn't mind, Mom said. Valindra snapped. Mom, stop. You're letting her play you. I picked up my phone. Mom saw my name on the screen and put it on speaker. Amethea. I spoke slowly, clearly, keeping my voice calm. I'm just asking a simple question. Do you have written permission to stay this week? Mom swallowed hard. We thought. Valindra jumped in. Don't do this. Mom's grieving. You're punishing her. No, Valindra, I said firmly. You told me I wasn't family on this trip unless I was on staff. You don't get to call this family now. Mom is embarrassed. She's trying her best. I'm soft and calm, but you need to hear this. You walked into a house assuming you could take it. And you let yourselves in. Mom gasped. Valindra, you still had a key. Valindra didn't answer. Silence. That was her confession. My lawyer explained it plainly. I continued. If someone gets hurt, it's on me. If fines happen, it's on me. I'm done cleaning up after this. No more. Just this once doesn't turn into months of apologies. Mom whispered. Amethea, I didn't mean to. I know, Mom, I said softly. But you need to hear me. I love you, and I'm done being managed through guilt. Valindra scoffed. So what? You're going to call the cops on your own mother? No, I said. I'm going to set boundaries. Then there was another knock on the door. This one was firm. Official. Mrs. Morwen's voice called out, muffled but serious. Hello, HOA security is here. Mom's breath caught. Valindra went rigid. Mom looked around at the neutral staging, the envelope on the coffee table, the folder with her name. Something shifted in her face, from confusion to shame. I didn't know, she whispered. I didn't know you were carrying all of this. Valindra spun on her. Don't start, she said sharply. No, Mom said firmly. You don't get to talk to her like that anymore. Valindra's eyes flashed with anger. Fine. If you side with her, enjoy following her rules. She yanked open the door, but outside, standing shoulder to shoulder, polite but firm, were a uniformed security officer and Mrs. Morwen. Valindra had nowhere left to push. She tried to hold her chin high, hoping dignity could beat rules, but the officer didn't argue. He didn't need to. He calmly asked, Ma'am, do you have the homeowner's written permission to stay on the property? Valindra's eyes flicked to Mom, silently demanding backup. Mom straightened. For the first time, she looked strong. She said firmly, No, we do not have permission, and that is my responsibility. Valindra's face fell. The confident, commanding sister I had known was gone. She looked around, helpless. The security officer nodded slowly. Thank you, ma'am. Please have all guests leave immediately or provide written permission from the homeowner. Valindra opened her mouth, but no words came out. Mom's hands relaxed, finally free from the tension and fear Valindra had tried to use against her. For the first time in years, Mom looked like she belonged in the house, not as someone being pushed around, but as someone strong and in charge of herself. The wind rattled the porch chimes again, softer this time. Inside, the house felt quiet but safe. Valindra's phone buzzed, but no one reached for it. Mom just looked at the folder on the table, then at me and smiled faintly. I'm done being managed through guilt, she whispered again. I love you, and I'm done letting anyone tell me otherwise. I smiled back. Finally, for the first time in a long time, Mom and I felt like we could breathe. Mom looked down at the papers in her hands. There was a paper called a use agreement, a folder from the neighborhood group, and some receipts tucked behind it. They were quiet little papers, but they showed everything I had been dealing with for years. I could see her shoulders shake as she held them. Mom opened her mouth to speak, but then closed it. She looked as if she wasn't sure what to say. Her shoulders trembled. "No," Mom said quietly at first, barely above a whisper, then a little louder, like she was surprised she could be brave. "No, we don't." Valindra, my sister, snapped her face toward Mom. "Mom," she said sharply. The officer, Mrs. Morwin, didn't smile, but her voice became soft. "Linda, I'm glad you answered honestly," she said. Valindra flared, her eyes like tiny storms. "This is ridiculous. We are not criminals." The officer nodded calmly. "Nobody said you were," she said. "But without permission, you need to either leave or wait outside while the homeowner confirms. It's not personal." Valindra's eyes narrowed even more. "It feels very personal," she said, as if everything was a battle. I spoke quietly into the phone to Mom. "Mom, I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm trying to stop being treated badly." Mom's breath hitched. "Amathea, I didn't know," she said softly. "I know," I said. "That's why I'm asking for something simple now. Please read the agreement." The officer stepped back to give us space. Valindra snatched the pages from Mom's hands and skimmed them like they were insults. She read the dates, the rules about how many people could stay, and the cleaning fee out loud. Her voice dripped with contempt. She looked up at me. "You're charging your own mother?" "I'm asking for respect," I said. "The fee is what I pay every time people treat my home like a free hotel." Mom reached for the papers again. Her fingers shook as she turned to look at a receipt. It was small, not fancy, but it showed reality. New towels, a plumber who fixed the overflowing toilet, a handyman who repaired the screen door Valindra's friends had broken without noticing. Mom's eyes filled with tears. "You paid for all this?" "Yes," I said. My voice was calm but tired. Tired because it was easier than arguing. Tired because I didn't want Mom to get caught in the middle. Valindra scoffed. "Oh, please. You love playing the martyr." Mom lifted her head. "Stop," she said. Just one word, quiet but strong. It landed like a small hammer. Valindra blinked like she hadn't heard right. "Excuse me?" Valindra said, surprised.